Welcome into the 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. Ladies and gentlemen, training camp is right around the corner. Rookies and quarterbacks already reported on July 18th, and veterans will report on July 25th. So coming up on today's show, I am going to rank and go through every single rookie on this Niners roster that will be hitting the practice field with an opportunity to crack the 53. That's all coming up on the show. We're going to look at the 2023 draft class as well as all of these UDFAs, and it starts right now. So 18 rookies as of right now, according to the 49ers website, will be partaking in Niners training camp. And like I said, they already reported here on July 18th. Khalan Laborn is a running back that I want to begin with here, and I'm ranking all of these players from worst to best. Khalan, really good season last year at Marshall. He was able to tally 302 carries for 1,513 yards and 6 touchdowns. A reason why he checks in all the way at the bottom, the Niners backfield is in a really good spot. I think Christian McCaffrey has an opportunity here to accumulate 2,000 all-purpose yards. If Elijah Mitchell is healthy, he can be one of the best number 2 backs in the NFL. I continue to be bullish and extremely high on Jordan Mason. And then you have Kyle Juszczyk, who's a do-it-all guy who can carry the football, catch passes, but is also that lead blocker out of the backfield and a staple in this Niners offense. Coming in at number 17, I don't think that Jack Colletto out of Oregon State is going to replace Kyle Juszczyk anytime soon. Juszczyk landed a couple of years ago the highest contract in the history of the NFL for a fullback, and his imprint, his impact on this offense can be felt week in and week out. Unless an injury happens, Colletto is going to get let go at some point. Now, at Oregon State, he was a very productive player who had a similar impact to what Juice is able to give this Niners team. 110 carries, 401 yards, 22 touchdowns throughout his career. So once Oregon State got inside the 5-yard line, a very impactful player. Ronald Awatt, the running back here. Another running back deep on this list because same could be said for Laborn here. He's just not going to have an opportunity to crack this squad unless he just blows everybody away, combined with injuries happening. 2022 at UTEP, 163 carries for 734 yards for him. And I think that this Niners team is in a good spot here going into 2023. We know that Kyle Shanahan with this outside zone scheme, running the football is going to be a staple of it. There are question marks and there's uncertainty at that quarterback position. So I believe that early in the season, especially if Brock Purdy is playing or if the inexperienced Trey Lance is at the helm at quarterback, Kyle Shanahan's going to want to establish the run to take the pressure off of those quarterbacks, but for Brock Purdy to keep him healthy. At number 15, Corey Luciano, offensive lineman here. Offensive line is certainly in a predicament going into 2023 because I don't believe that they had the necessary depth along that group, and especially at right tackle. Now, Corey Luciano, in his career at Washington, did play in 35 games, 13 starts, undrafted free agent for San Francisco. Let's go to number 14 as we refresh this list here as we continue to progress. Ilm Manning, another offensive lineman. So you have John Feliciano as a pretty good backup who can play center, guard. We're going to talk about Joey Fisher. There are a couple of other depth pieces along this offensive line. I still can't believe that San Francisco did not address right tackle. They're moving forward with Colton McKivitz. Ilm Manning does have a lot of experience. So if he were to surprise a lot of people throughout training camp and in the preseason, he would do so relying on all of the experience that he's been able to accumulate, 62 games and 60 starts. Can you imagine what it would be like to go to college in Hawaii? I would get in way too much trouble because you know how I roll on the San Francisco 49ers Report. If you're pumped up for Niners training camp, just a couple of days away, type bang bang Niner gang down in the chat right now. At number 13, Isaiah Winstead. You remember his story, right? Undrafted free agent. He put out a video on Twitter of him in practice just burning DBs, catching some 50-50 balls, moving very well in the open field. He was asking for an opportunity to crack an NFL roster. And the 49ers, after looking at that tape and the production that he had last year at ECU, 88 catches, more than 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. He was an All-American Athletic Conference player. They decided to give him that opportunity because they thought that, okay, you've asked for it. You're trying to earn it. We'll see if you can earn it. Pretty cool story with that video taking off on social media. I mean, it got millions and millions of views on Twitter. We'll see what he's able to do. And if he can crack this squad, even the practice squad would be an accomplishment for him. Popular player among these UDFAs, as we haven't talked yet about a player who the Niners drafted in 2023, is Joey Fisher. Interesting story with him. He played at Division II Shepherd. That is a small school in West Virginia, and they play in the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. Westchester University, one of the powers in that conference. I actually am from Westchester, so I'm very familiar with the PSAC, as it's otherwise known. 43 games. He was a D2 All-American last year. Played a lot of offensive tackle. The Niners are going to slot him inside to play at guard because of the uptick in competition. He played and helped block for an offense last year that averaged nearly 500 total yards. Deshaun Jamison, I'm really excited to see what he's going to be able to do. He played his college football at Texas, and the 49ers tweeted out a video several months ago after 49ers OTAs about some of the highlights that some of these players were able to put forward throughout OTAs. Deshaun Jamison was all around the field. He's a little bit shorter at 5'9", but at Texas, a very productive player. 23 pass breakups in 60 games, a reason why he might be able to make this team. He has experience as a kick and punt returner, and right now it's Ray McCloud, who is one of the best kick and punt returners in the NFL. If he were to get hurt, or if he's able to show some special teams ability outside of returning in Jamison, he can make this team. But San Francisco has done a great job of developing late round and undrafted defensive backs. And Jamison has really good instincts playing that position. Name to keep an eye out for as the preseason gets underway here in a few weeks. Which rookie are you most excited about for San Francisco going into this upcoming season? Just drop me a name down below in the comment section. And if you're looking to get geared up for this year, Christian McCaffrey jerseys are available at chatsports.com/CMC. The Niners offense, after that trade acquisition of McCaffrey last year, averaged more than 30 points per game. He's a friend of the show. We got to interview him during Super Bowl week on Radio Row. And I think that he's in store to have a tremendous season if he's able to stay healthy. If you're looking for a fantasy option, fantastic. If you're looking for a jersey, yeah, you can get it right now. Also, if you use that link, there are other jerseys for the Niners that you can also get to get geared up for this year. At number 10, as we pivot inside the top 10 here as we're grading all of these rookies here, Jalen Graham, the linebacker, also a draftee for San Francisco in this 2023 draft class. Jalen Graham and Dee Winters are two players after you lost Azeez Al-Shire in NFL free agency that could have an opportunity outside of Marcelino McCrary-Ball to maybe be that third linebacker, although for a rookie linebacker on one of the NFL's best defenses to get a lot of playing time could be an uphill battle. Graham was a 7th-round pick out of Purdue, a lot of experience playing in the Big Ten, 169 tackles, 16 pass breakups, 12.5 tackles for loss in 38 games while playing for the Boilermakers. I think that him and I really think that Dee Winters and Jalen Graham, they have good diagnosing skills on the defensive side of the football. And the Niners scouting department certainly saw that in the pre-draft process. And that's why they like both of these players. They also understood that you needed to replenish that position just a little bit from a financial resource standpoint, but also an age standpoint. You lose Azeez Al-Shire. He gets solid money in free agency as he teams back up with Rand Carthen, who was in this front office, now the general manager for the Tennessee Titans. He deserved to get that payday, and I'm happy that he was able to get paid because he played good ball for this team. But in replenishing that position, Jalen Graham going to have a decent opportunity here. Let's now go to number 9, Spencer Waege, the defensive lineman out of North Dakota State. This is a guy who also, throughout rookie minicamp and OTAs, was really turning heads. 57 games with the Bison, 29 starts. So he's obviously been able to play a lot. A little bit of a late bloomer getting those starts later in his career. The numbers very, very solid. 138 tackles, 42 tackles for loss, 20 and a half sacks, and 5 forced fumbles. This is a player who has really good instincts, and he's going to be under the tutelage of Chris Kocurek, who I think is the best defensive line coach in the NFL. He has done wonders for so many players along that defensive line, turning them into really good players. If I could put my money on one UDFA to potentially crack this 53-man roster, it might be Spencer Waege. Number 8, Dee Winters, the other linebacker who the 49ers drafted. So Jalen Graham, Dee Winters, as I talked about a little bit earlier. Jalen Graham went to Purdue. Dee Winters went to TCU. Dee Winters selected in the 6th round. This guy can hit the hole very, very quickly on the defensive side of the ball. Pause. And in 2022, for a TCU team that ended up making it to the national championship game before getting stomped by Georgia, he had those early diagnosing skills that allowed him to play like a wrecking ball. And when he sees an opening in that offensive line, boom, he hits it. 15 games, 79 tackles, 14 and a half tackles for loss, 7 and a half sacks. Well-rounded numbers that were tremendous for him last year. Ronnie Bell, going to come in at number 7 here. I think that he is your future Jauan Jennings player. Jauan Jennings, after this year, as he's on that restricted free agent tag type deal, Jauan Jennings is going to be able to sign a nice little contract after 2023 with the wide receiver needy team because he's been a security blanket type of guy for San Francisco. He's come up in the clutch, made a lot of big plays. Ronnie Bell, similar type of player where you look at him and you look at Jauan Jennings and the body type that they have. They don't impress you or overwhelm you by any means. Good ball skills, good hands, timely plays, and Ronnie Bell also has the production, just like Jauan Jennings had at Tennessee. For Ronnie Bell, last year, 14 games, 62 catches, 889 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I like the contested catch ability as well. He can go up and get it, and sometimes you need to win those 50-50 balls at the NFL level if you don't have the speed to get open. That fits the bill for Ronnie Bell. Brayden Willis, the tight end who the Niners also drafted, going to come in at number 6 here for me on my rookie rankings list. Last year, among all tight ends in college football, he actually led the nation in yards picked up after contact. He, too, a 7th-round pick and a guy who can play special teams. John Lynch raved about his versatility. He can also play a little fullback. So if you're looking for him in that H-back role, he could fulfill that as well. 39 catches, 514 yards, and 7 touchdowns last year for the Sooners. If you want to interact with me on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me on both social media platforms at Chase_Senior. I'm on Threads too, but I think that platform is tanking because Twitter's just a little bit too large and powerful. But if you want to find me there, you can give me a shout on Threads as well. Jake Moody, as we enter our top 5, you have to put the kicker at some point, right? And Jake Moody was a 3rd-round pick. So the Niners are hoping that he's going to be able to have an impact this year. They didn't bring back Robbie Gould, even though Robbie Gould said this past week that he was open to returning to San Francisco. Niners didn't even reach out to him and his representation. Jake Moody has a big leg and a pretty clutch kicker. 69 of 84 throughout his career at Michigan. 82%. Not great by any means. Although he did connect on all of his point-after attempts. 148 of 148 throughout his career, and also tallied a Michigan record 4 kicks of 50-plus yards, including a deep one in the college football semifinal against the aforementioned TCU Horned Frogs. Cameron Latu, number 4. I think that Cameron Latu and Brayden Willis have an opportunity to unseat Ross Dwelley and Charlie Warner as the backups to George Kittle. And I think that the San Francisco 49ers had this in mind when they drafted both of these players. Latu is a very intriguing athlete. He didn't run a crazy time in the 40-yard dash in the pre-draft process, but then he was clocked after that and has this really sneaky speed, 56 catches, catching the rock from Bryce Young last year, 787 yards and 12 touchdowns, good red zone threat, has sneaky getaway speed, and a player who can make something happen with the ball in his hands after the catch and after contact. I'm pretty high here on Robert Beal Jr., who was selected by the Niners out of Georgia. That Georgia defensive line, stupid talent. The entire defense really had overwhelming talent. And that's why a guy like Robert Beal was somewhat overshadowed. Throughout his career with the Bulldogs, 54 games, 72 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks. By no means did he have crazy production, but I think a player like this with pedigree, with speed, with bend to get around the edge, could be one of those players that Chris Kocurek brings the best out of and maximizes over time. Darrell Luter Jr., I think that he could get some time in year one. 5th-round pick out of South Alabama. Just like Samuel Womack 2 drafts ago, I said the same thing about Luter. They have an ability to make plays on the football. And having those instincts, how many times do you see a cornerback at moments just get lost in translation when the ball is in the air? Doesn't happen with Womack, doesn't happen with Darrell Luter Jr. Even though he went to South Alabama, even though he was a 5th-round pick, this guy can play. 36 games, 16 pass breakups, 5 interceptions. Started off the JUCO route, so he's a little bit gritty, and I think Niner fans will really like his toughness. And then at number 1, it's the player who I had in my mock drafts in the pre-draft process. It's the player who I asked San Francisco to take, Ji'Ayir Brown, the safety out of Penn State. He can really play all around the field. He, like Darrell Luter Jr., started his college career the JUCO route at Lackawanna College, which is a JUCO power in northeastern Pennsylvania, just outside of Scranton. And in his 3 years, for a pro-style defense, he was able to put up numbers that were really wide variety, right? 153 tackles, 19 pass breakups, 10 interceptions, 9 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. He can play both safety positions. I think that he could take over for Tashaun Gipson as Gipson slides into that leadership veteran role for the second consecutive year like he did last year for Talanoa Hufanga. And I think that Ji'Ayir Brown at some point this year could start alongside Hufanga, who was an all-pro last year. You can play him along that line of scrimmage, in the box, in the slot. He can play deep safety. He can also come up. He is a player, again, with great instincts. And I think sometimes people make too much out of the athlete that some of these prospects are. San Francisco, on the other hand, does a great job of identifying guys who make instinctual plays, who can read and diagnose things before they happen, because when the game happens and live bullets start to fly, sometimes that is what wins and not athleticism, being able to predict what happens from the opposing offense or the opposing defense if you're on the other side of the ball. So the most impactful rookie will be who? We just ranked all the rookies, top to bottom, all 18 of them who are going to be partaking in Niners training camp. Let me know right now.